You are about to discover a secret that has been hidden from all of us for a long time. In this video, we reveal what they didn't want you to know. Get ready for a journey of mystery and revelations. What happened after this revelation will surprise you. Don't miss the chance to understand what is happening behind the scenes. If you think you have seen it all, it's time to think again. Watch until the end and share your reactions in the comments. What happened after this revelation will surprise you. The darkness of night hung over the small town of Hollow Creek. A quiet town, forgotten by time, where everyone knew each other and avoided talking about the past. The cobblestone streets were always empty after sunset, and the streetlights flickered, as if hesitant to illuminate the night. Ethan Carter, a 35-year-old local resident, had lived there for years with his wife, Claire. But a growing uneasiness had haunted his mind since the disappearance of his childhood friend, Mark Evans. Mark had disappeared without a trace, and the last time he was seen, he was walking towards an abandoned church on the outskirts of town. An imposing structure, made of dark stone and broken Gothic windows. It seemed to resist time, but not the rot that emanated from within. The wind that blew through the surrounding trees carried almost imperceptible murmurs, as if the forest itself feared getting too close to that place. Every time he passed by, Ethan felt a chill run down his spine, an instinctive feeling that something about the building did not belong to the world of the living. The locals avoided talking about the church. When questioned, they looked away, mumbled apologies, and went on their way, leaving Ethan even more intrigued. He began to notice subtle patterns. The town avoided certain places, certain times, certain names, as if they followed silent rules that ensured their safety. But he could not ignore them. Something inside him compelled him to keep searching for answers, as if an invisible thread was pulling him deeper into the mystery. And the deeper he dug, the darker the hole became, until he no longer knew if he was in control, or if he was just following the script that someone or something had already written for him. Ethan began his investigation by asking locals about Mark. The answers were always vague, interspersed with suspicious looks and abrupt changes of subject. Some people walked away quickly, as if just mentioning the name of the church was a sentence of bad luck. He noticed that even his wife, Claire, became uncomfortable whenever he pressed the subject. Her answers were short, evasive, as if she was hiding something or afraid of revealing too much. Determined to find the truth, Ethan began visiting the town library, rummaging through old archives and forgotten newspaper clippings. It was one rainy night under the dim light of a lamp that he found a newspaper dated 1953. The headline in large yellowed letters made his blood run cold. Family vanishes without a trace. Last sighting, St. Jude Church. The article detailed the disappearance of an entire family, mentioning that over the decades, other similar cases had occurred. People simply disappeared, and none of them had ever been found. The details were scarce, but one name caught his attention: Father Thomas. He was the leader of the congregation at the time. The most disturbing detail, however, was a detail that made no sense. The priest's name. He should no longer exist. Decades had passed since that news story, but Father Thomas's name was still mentioned. And not just in ancient records, rumor had it that secret worshippers still revered him, visiting the church under the moonlight. Fear grew inside Ethan. If that man was still there, then who or what was he really? Paranoia began to take a suffocating hold on Ethan. He felt like he was being watched at every turn, a constant sensation of unseen eyes piercing his sanity. The lights in his house flickered on and off, but it wasn't just any old flicker. They seemed to respond to his presence, as if something was trying to communicate through the electricity. The nights became even more unsettling. Whispers echoed in the hallways, always close enough to hear but never intelligible. A low, incessant murmur that grew louder when he closed his eyes to sleep. He began to record the times these sounds occurred and noticed a disturbing pattern, always at 3:33 a.m. Claire was different too. His wife, once so loving and predictable, became a stranger. She would leave the house without warning, returning only after midnight. Her eyes seemed more sunken, her words colder. He once tried to ask her where she was going, but she just smiled in a way that made his stomach turn. Something was wrong. Very wrong. One night, unable to bear any more doubts, Ethan decided to follow her. The rain was falling lightly, turning the streets of Hollow Creek into a maze of elongated shadows. He kept enough distance to not be noticed, feeling the adrenaline pumping through his veins. His wife's destination was one, the forgotten church. And Ethan, without knowing it, was about to witness something that would change his life forever. The rain was falling lightly when Claire left the house and got into her car, not realizing that Ethan was following her from afar. The journey was long and winding, passing through deserted roads and poorly lit streets, until it ended in front of the abandoned church. The building, surrounded by twisted trees, seemed even more sinister under the darkness of the night. Ethan parked his car a safe distance away and cautiously got out, hiding behind the rain-soaked trees. He watched in silence, feeling his heart race as he saw Claire get out of the car and walk slowly towards the church. More people began to gather, from different directions, their faces hidden beneath dark hoods. There was something ritualistic about their movements, as if they were following a silent, rehearsed choreography. A chill wind blew, carrying the smell of melting wax and something else. A strange, metallic odor that made Ethan catch his breath. The church doors opened slowly, without a sound, as if pulled by an invisible force. The dim glow of candles illuminated the gloomy interior, casting flickering shadows on the time-stained walls. At the altar, a tall, hooded figure stood motionless. The black cassock blended into the darkness around him, making his face impossible to make out. But Ethan felt it. Something about this being was not human. A dense presence hovered in the air, pressing against his skin as if the space around him were distorted. The air became heavy, suffocating, and his instincts screamed at him to run away. But he couldn't. His body refused to obey, as if invisible hands were holding him, as if something was testing his resistance, his fear. It felt as if he closed his eyes for even a second, that thing on the altar would come closer. And then there would be no turning back. The next morning, Ethan confronted Claire. He demanded answers, but she only laughed, a hollow, distant laugh, as if she were hearing another voice besides his. Her eyes were different, sunken and expressionless, as if her soul were missing. She denied everything, insisted that he was delusional, that his obsession with the church and Mark was destroying his sanity. But he knew. Something about her was wrong, something that went beyond the lies that came out of her mouth. Unable to accept that answer, Ethan returned to the church during the day. He tried to open the front door, but it was locked. He walked around the building, feeling a shiver run down his spine as he realized that, despite the old worn wood of the building, there were no signs of natural decay, no cobwebs, no sign that time had acted on the inside. As if the place existed in a crevice separate from reality. As he tried to look through the broken window, he saw something that made his heart stop. Photos. Many photos scattered across the floor, all covered in dust, forgotten by time. Ethan managed to force open a side window and entered, smelling the thick smell of mold and something else, something metallic, like dried blood. He bent down and picked up one of the photos. His heart froze. It was an old photo from decades ago. He recognized the faces of residents who had been missing for years. And then, his blood ran cold. Among those pictured was Mark, but not the Mark he knew. He looked ancient. His face, his clothes, everything indicated that he belonged to the same era as the other people in the photo, as if he had been there much longer than he should have. Ethan's stomach turned. He turned over one of the photos and found an inscription scrawled in shaky, almost unrecognizable handwriting. He was never a man. Fear washed over him like a violent tide. Who or what was Mark? The priest. Who was this priest who never aged? And why was Claire a part of it? Despair took hold of him. The priest. Who was that priest? Why was he still there, as if he had never aged? And why was his wife part of it? Ethan tried to run away, but the town wouldn't let him. Whenever he tried to leave, strange accidents happened. People showed up to convince him to stay. And then he realized, everyone knew. The whole town was involved. He was the only stranger there. On his last night, he woke up and found Claire standing next to his bed, staring at him with empty eyes. Her body was paralyzed. A shadow crawled behind her, tall, slender, in a black cassock. The priest, the true owner of that town. The next morning, Ethan woke up in bed as if nothing had happened. But Claire was not there. In the living room, he found a sealed envelope. Inside there was a single photo, him and Claire in front of the church. But he didn't remember that photo. Behind it, an inscription. It's been longer than you think. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. He looked into the mirror. His reflection smiled back at him, but his mouth never moved.